The playoffs started on Saturday there with Washington Capitals taking on the Boston Bruins. Hell of a game. Game ended up going to overtime where Nick Dowd scored on a goal from Oshie and Wilson as the two people getting the assists. What a hell of a game. Really physical. You knew that was going to happen with the East. It's kind of what you get when you have pretty much any team besides Pittsburgh and the Islanders are kind of the two teams who kind of are more skill based and stay out of the rough stuff. But Bruins Capitals, you're going to see all series long. Those guys, they went at it. I'm just looking to see how many hits they had in the game because I believe it was so they had 92 hits in the game there. So that was pretty impressive. And Capitals squeak it out. Shot from the point gets tipped, ends up squeaking in overtime. They tell you growing up as a kid, which so many people don't really believe, but any shot's a good shot in overtime. Any shot you put on the net can end up going in. And that's kind of what happened for them. So they're up 1-0. Moving over to Sunday yesterday, you had three fucking intense games. It was amazing to watch. I was exhausted after watching all the games. I couldn't believe what happened. But let's start with the Islanders and Pittsburgh Penguins. Let's start there. So Islanders pick up Kyle Palmieri at the trade deadline from the New Jersey Devils. He ends up scoring the first goal to open the scoring and the last one in overtime to win the game for them. Huge acquisition for them picking up him. Sidney Crosby scores one of the fucking most impressive goals I've ever seen scored. One-handed guy on you, putting your stick out there, and then he turned his stick blade to the skinny side and hit it with the skinny side directly on the puck, which is only like this big, and he put it far side, one-handed. Just you can't count out Crosby, especially in the playoffs. He's a killer. I think that was his 70th goal, I think, in the playoffs, which is pretty impressive. But yeah, they ended up not getting it done. Their goalie shits the bed. He lets in 4 goals all in the same spot, all glove side high. 3 burnt him up high, and 1 went right underneath his arm, right on that same glove spot. So going forward, that might be the weakness to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it's their goaltending. Jari shit the bed. So are they going to go to Matt Murray in game 2? It's going to be interesting to see what Sullivan does over there as the head coach for that. And then Minnesota and the Vegas Golden Knights, one of the most amped up first round matchups that we got, as the Minnesota Wild seem to be the Vegas Golden Knights kryptonite coming into the league. Since the Vegas has been in the league, the Minnesota Wild are 13-2-2 against Vegas, and against the rest of the league, they are 48-10. So seems like the Wild have their number, and they did again yesterday. This is going to be the goaltending battle of the playoffs right here. You have Marc-Andre Fleury and you have Cam Talbot, excuse me. Both goalies stood on their head. Fleury, if he didn't stand on his head like he did yesterday, like a man possessed, it would have been 4-0. Sucks how they ended up losing in the playoffs. Every mistake is crucial, and what happened for them to lose the game. Pietrangelo, who came over from St. Louis to Vegas this last year, who the assistant captain, failed to clear the puck, made a mistake, and the puck goes right to the front of the net, and your guy has to lay out to try to block the shot, goes off a stick, goes right between Fleury, game over. And that's all it takes is one mistake, is that seemed to be the one mistake of the hockey game, and it ends up in the back of your net in overtime. So Minnesota Wild coming out with a huge win in game 1. Game 2 is going to be I feel like Vegas is going to be coming for blood. It's going to be a good one to watch. And then last night's last matchup, which I think this is going to be the best series of the first round. Just as you've never had the Battle of Florida in the playoffs before. The last 2 games of the season, for people who don't know, these teams played each other. One game resulted in 164 minutes of penalties. The next game after didn't really have that many penalty minutes, but there was still fights. And so these 2 teams amped it up right before the playoffs. Last night they play. Tampa Bay Lightning gets Nikita Kucherov and Steven Stamkos back onto their roster, as Kucherov sat out all year after having offseason hip surgery. Hasn't played since the Stanley Cup Finals of last season. Gets out there and scores 3 points in his first game back, like he hasn't missed a beat. Dude is unbelievable hockey player to watch. It's really impressive to not, playing in a game and then stepping into the playoffs first game and you're 2 goals and an assist like it's nothing. This game, however, was an absolute battle. Every single whistle, you're having scrums. There were a lot of penalties, a lot of 4-on-4 play. The refs in this series seem to be letting a lot of it go, which is really nice. In the Pittsburgh series, the refs kind of been calling a lot. It's nice to see the refs let the boys play. You kind of establish in that first period what you're going to let go and what you're not going to let go. And after the first whistle, I think it was like 8 seconds in, all 5 guys on both teams were at each other's throats, punching each other in the faces and stuff. So the fans down there were absolutely wild. Coming off of that game, though, Sam Bennett for the Florida Panthers has been assessed a 1-game sussy. He's going to miss the next one for a boarding call on Blake Coleman. For those of you who didn't see this hit earlier in the game, Florida Panthers winger Anthony Duclair had his back and he got ran from behind into the boards pretty bad. They called it a 2-minute boarding penalty. Nothing really happened except for that really sparked some flares and people were coming after Ryan McDonough, the guy who did it. Later in the game, Sam Bennett sees the opportunity to go run a guy on Tampa, face plants him from behind right into the glass and drops him down, and they call that one a 2-minute as well. However, they are giving him a suspension. I don't know what's the difference there between the two calls. Both guys are going full speed, fucking rocking people from behind into the boards, and they tell you when you see the guy's numbers, you're not supposed to be the dickhead who ends somebody's career by putting him headfirst into the. You don't want to paralyze somebody or break their back by hitting somebody in the back. So this series is heating up. I want to say they had 100 hits last night. Let me check the game notes here, bud. Oh my God. So Vegas and Wild actually had the most hits. They had 129 hits. So
Wow.
that is so many hits. That's more than the minutes played in the game. 120 minutes in the game. Or no, 24, 60 minutes. Excuse me.
So your baby's 2 hits a minute.
And big hits too. But yeah, Tampa ends up winning this one. Big question mark is for the NHL, for those of you who don't know cap rules and regulations and stuff like that. So during the season, you do have a cap limit that you do have to stay under. With Steven Stamkos and Kucherov being on like a long-term injury reserve type of thing, their cap did not count against the team for the season. So now that they're in the playoffs, salary cap does not exist. And if it were to be, they'd be $19 million over the cap right now. So a lot of people are complaining about that as they kind of pulled a fast one and loaded up their team and then have 2 superstars come off whose cap didn't touch all season and they're stepping onto the ice for them in the playoffs. People are really, really angry about that. And I guess we'll see what the NHL decides to do moving forward, if this is something that they put a stop to or whatnot. But yeah, that's going to be, I think, the best series. And then tonight, Blues Avalanche get underway and Carolina and Nashville get underway. Both of those should be a great series. Boston and Washington kick it off game 2 tonight as well. And early talks of the St. Louis Avalanche series, as many people see this is going to be a one-sided affair, especially late news coming out last night. Top scorer for the St. Louis Blues had to enter COVID protocol last night. So he has to pass 2 tests before tonight's game and get cleared to play. Who knows if he's going to be back for game 1. If he's not, it's going to be tough for them to get a win, even though it's going to be tough for them to get a win anyway in this series. But Ryan O'Reilly of the St. Louis Blues came out and said, this is going to be a blast. We're going to have fun and we're going to beat them. So he's calling the shots out in the public in round 1, and we'll see if they can back it up. And that's really all I got in the NHL. NHL record. First 3 games in the postseason all went to overtime. I thought the fourth one last night was as well. And then Braden Point scored with a minute 14 left, which kind of sealed the deal down there. But yeah, this is the best playoffs I think I've ever watched in my entire life playing hockey, because how they did the division thing this year where you're playing the same teams. You're seeing a lot of shit from the beginning of the year that teams remember coming out, and it's going to be hell of a playoffs, I think, for whoever wins this. I feel like this is going to be one of the toughest Stanley Cups to win.